Welcome to Lecture 7. This is on the topic of photosynthesis, the light reaction. This lecture will be delivered across two parts, and this is part 1. In this lecture we will concentrate on the light reactions of photosynthesis. This lecture is part of the subject Plant Physiology, which is a component of the Bachelor of Agriculture and Technology, a degree which is a collaboration with Melbourne Polytechnic and La Trobe University. Please visit our website for further information on this course and other courses that we offer at www.melbournepolytechnic.edu.au. My name is Dr. Nikki Cooley. This lecture is part of a series of lectures. We are up to topic 7. Please ensure that you have watched the other lectures before you commence watching this lecture, as the concept and the themes required will help you understand the concepts and the themes presented here. Please ensure that you have conducted all Moodle associated quizzes and DIY practicals, as well as the essential reading recommended with each lecture. This lecture is being split into two parts. In part 1, we will look at an overview of photosynthesis. We will concentrate on the light reaction, the structure and the function of the important organelles, the chloroplasts, and this will be followed by a detailed look at the structure and the function of thylakoid membranes. In part 2, we will concentrate on the energy production part of the light reaction. The word photosynthesis means synthesis using light. But what do we mean by this? It means that light from the sun is captured by the plant, and the energy from this light is then made useful to the plant. The plant's use of energy is to make carbon compounds. The word synthesis is a chemical description of the production of these carbon-based compounds. These compounds are known as carbohydrates or sugars. So let's explore this in a little bit more detail. The plant will absorb water through its leaves, and we covered this process extensively in the previous lecture, Solute Transport in Plants, Lecture 5. Carbon dioxide is absorbed from the atmosphere into the leaves via the stomata. When these two compounds are synthesized, the carbohydrate, glucose and oxygen are produced. The formula on the screen describes the chemical reaction for photosynthesis. Once you know that energy cannot be created or destroyed, you realize that it takes energy to create sugar. Plants obtain this energy from the sun. The process of plants obtaining energy from the sun is known as the light requiring action. The formula on the screen gives you information about how many molecules of each component is required to make up one molecule of glucose. The byproduct of this reaction is oxygen. 6 atoms of oxygen are released. This is where humans get their oxygen to breathe. So 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water produces 1 molecule of glucose and releases 6 molecules of oxygen into the air. In today's lecture you will learn about some of the structures which enable photosynthesis to occur. The first structure you should become familiar with is the chloroplast. Here we have an image on the screen of lots of chloroplasts. These green pieces here are lots of chloroplasts in one cell. In plants, photosynthesis is conducted in the eukaryotic cells in the structure called the chloroplast. A plant typically contains many of these structures. There are about 200 chloroplasts in the spinach leaf image. This image is a scanning electron microscopy image of a chloroplast from a young tobacco leaf. So let us break up the chloroplast into some of the interesting components. I'd like you to become familiar today with the thylakoid membranes. They are very important in the light reaction. These are membranes that, when they are stacked, produce grama. The other important component is the stroma. The illustration on your slide is a cartoon type illustration that demonstrates the key components of the chloroplast. Firstly, I'd like you to note that the chloroplast has an outer membrane and an inner membrane. In the inner membrane, sacs fold inwards, and these are called lamellae. The membranes that these lamellae are made of are called the thylakoid membranes, just here and here. When the thylakoid membranes are stacked, they are stacked in a process or an order that's called the granum. Inside the chloroplast is a liquid, and this liquid is called the stroma. And in this liquid is the location of the Calvin cycle, or non-light requiring cycle. But we will cover more about the Calvin cycle in the second lecture. At the end of this lecture, I'd like you to watch the following video on photosynthesis conducted by Mr. Anderson. Please make notes on this video and insert your notes from the video into the lecture notes here. Please ensure that you read Chapter 7, Photosynthesis, the Light Reactions, from the recommended textbook Tays and Zeiger 2010 5th edition. This is essential reading for this topic. Please ensure that you insert your notes here. So let us review what we have learnt in part 1 of this lecture. We have learnt that light interacts with chloroplasts and that the structure is related to the function of the chloroplast. An organ in the chloroplast called the thylakoid membrane captures the energy and it converts it into two chemical forms. These are known as ATP and NADPH. These forms are used in the synthesis of sugar in the carbon fixation reactions in the stroma of the chloroplast, and we will learn about the fixation of these sugars in more detail in Lecture 8. That brings us to the end of photosynthesis, the light reaction part 1.